Yo, yo, yo. Let's check out example number 4 here. All right, so for this function, f of x equals 18x squared minus 24, and for g of x, 3x, we have to find each of the following. So we're going to find f plus g of x and f plus g of -1. Ah, you a trick of me. So let's try this here. So we're going to do, I always rewrite this as f of x plus g of x, okay? I just like this notation better because this tells me I have to write down what is f of x. F of x is this guy. It is 18x squared minus 24x. That's what f of x is. Well, what is g of x? Well, g of x is plus 3x. Okay, so this represents f of x. That's what I represented right here. And this represents g of x. Now, if I combine like terms, well, actually, what can I combine, right? Well, I can combine negative 24x and 3x because those have the same base and the same exponent. So I'm going to drop down my 18x squared. And I'm going to do a negative 24 plus 3 is a negative 21x. Okay, and that's it. We cannot combine these together because they don't have the same base and the same exponent. This has a 2, and this right here would have a ghostly 1. Now check this out. We need to find f plus g of -1, or you can write that as f of -1 plus g of -1. So what is f of -1? Well, that's the same thing as replacing this with -1 right here. So check this out. Let's do it. 18 times -1 squared minus 24 times -1. So this right here all represents this right here. Okay, that's what f of -1 is. So -1 squared is just 1, right? -1 times -1 is just 18. Okay? And then here, negative 24 times -1 is a positive 24. Okay? So that means we have 42. So this all represents f of -1. But now what about, and do a different color here, what about g of -1? Let me come over here. Well, g of -1 means I plug in -1 right here. 3 times -1. Which is -3. So that means I have to add, what is f of -1? Well, that's 42 plus g of -1, which is -3. So 42 plus or minus 3. See, and that's going to give us 39. Oops, sorry about that. And there we go. So that would be the answer then for that guy. Okay, so just notice that when there's a number right there, you're going to want to calculate each one. And then once you calculated the first one, I got 42. I calculated the second one, I got -3. Combine them together, I get 39. Now check this out though. There was actually a shorter way, but you can't show the shortcut quite so fast. Okay, doesn't this right here represent, this right here represents f plus g of x, right? It does. So that means, check this out. If I want to find, check this out. If I want to find f of -1, I've already added them together. So I could actually use this right here, and I can find the answer. And let's just see what happens there. So watch this. I'm going to plug in -1 now. 18 times -1 squared minus 21 times -1. So -1 squared is 1, so this is still going to be 18. Negative 21 times -1 is a positive 21. And what do you know? What do you know? Ho, ho, ho. Well, it's not Christmas, but check this out. Look, we got the exact same answer. So just knowing that we didn't have to go through all of this work, but this is just showing that we've already done a lot of, we actually took the summary, like we added them together and got this. So now you can just plug in any number in here. If it said f plus g of 7, f plus g of 1, it doesn't matter, you can plug it in here. Or if you want to do them each separately, you can do that as well. Okay. Now, let's keep on going down here. Notice we have the same thing right here. We have what's f minus g of x, and then what's f minus g of 1. So this time we'll use a shortcut. We'll first do the work over here, and then we'll kind of go on from there. Okay. So let's do f of x minus g of x. Let's remind ourselves, what is f of x? F of x is this right here, right? It's the 18x squared minus 24x. Okay. Is that right? Make sure, yeah. 18x squared minus 24x. So 18x squared minus 24x. So this right here represents f of x. Minus, right, minus. Now, what is g of x? Well, whatever g of x is, I have to put it in parentheses, right? G of x is just a 3x. So basically, you could just say this is minus 3x, which means that we can combine these two together, negative 24x and a negative 3x. I can combine those, and that will give me a negative 27x, and then I can bring this down, 18x squared. Okay, so this all represents this, f minus g of x. So that's what that answer is. So now if I want to find this, well, what is f minus g of 1? Well, that means I just take this and I plug in 1. 18 times 1 minus 27 times 1. 18 times 1 is 18. 27 times 1 is just 27. So then all we got to do now is just subtract those guys. Oh, my color changed. 18, 20 is 2, then yeah, that's negative 9. Okay. And that would be it.